Let me be clear, this is not a briefing on robotics. This is an analysis of a tectonic shift in the foundational elements of labor, capital, and ultimately, sovereign power. We are here today to dissect the emergence of an entirely new economic primitive. We begin with this number, $8.5 trillion. This figure represents the projected annual economic loss by 2030, a direct and unavoidable consequence of a terminal global labor shortage. This is not a cyclical downturn. It is a structural vacuum in the productive capacity of our nation-states. And it is into precisely this vacuum that a new form of labor is being engineered. The core thesis of this briefing is this: we are witnessing the commodification of physical action itself. You must understand that Optimus is not a product. It is the operating system for a new class of capital asset, one that is defined by software, deployed globally, and entirely unbound by the limitations of biology or geography. Now, let us begin with the first principle. To truly understand the geopolitical consequences that will unfold, we must first deconstruct the physics of this new labor model and its absolute disruption to the global cost structure. Human labor has always been a variable operational expenditure, subject to what we can call biological depreciation. It requires calories, it requires rest, and it requires insurance. The silicon alternative transforms labor into a fixed capital expenditure. It operates continuously, consuming only kilowatt hours, and crucially, its value appreciates with every single over-the-air software update. This is not an iteration. This is a fundamental inversion of labor economics, as we have known it for centuries. So what is the second-order economic impact? The amortized cost of a single Optimus unit directly neutralizes the primary economic weapon of the global south: labor cost arbitrage. By matching the lowest global wage benchmarks, it simply eliminates the incentive for offshoring. But at the same time, it eradicates the hidden operational tax of human liability insurance, a significant cost burden in Western economies, thereby creating a powerful dual financial incentive for reshoring manufacturing. This figure, 15.2%, represents the projected operating margin gap between the early adopters of this labor infrastructure and their legacy competitors. Let's be precise, a 15% advantage is not a competitive edge, it is an existential chasm, and it will force a strategic imperative for adoption among all serious industrial players. The economic inversion, then, is clear. The question that follows is, how durable is this advantage? We will now proceed to the second pillar of this analysis, the unassailable integration moat. That is, the deep technical and data-driven barriers to entry that insulate the strategy from all meaningful competition. 5 billion miles. This is the scale of the real-world physical friction data that has been harvested from the full self-driving program. This is not simulated data in a lab. It is a library of the edge cases of physics, the unpredictable resistance of a rusted bolt, the specific texture of a woven fabric. This dataset forms a non-replicable training foundation for the Optimus neural network. And what does this data advantage enable? A technical capability known as zero-shot generalization. It is the ability to derive the physical properties of a novel object from vision alone, without any explicit prior programming. This creates a moat that software-only AI firms, which rely on simulated kinematics, simply cannot cross. They lack the ground truth of physical reality. This moat is then reinforced by deep vertical integration at the hardware level. Leveraging megacasting and proprietary battery supply chains drives down cost. The 28 proprietary actuators are engineered for a torque density that exceeds biological muscle. But the critical components here are the structural battery integration and the octo-valve thermal system. Together, they solve the core engineering problems of energy density and heat dissipation, which is what ensures operational continuity for a full industrial shift. A clinical comparison to legacy automation really underscores the obsolescence here, where FANUC and ABB offer single-task, depreciating hardware requiring millions in custom integration. Optimus offers a general-purpose, appreciating AI asset. A failure observed in a single unit can be processed by the Dojo supercomputer and a software patch deployed to the entire global fleet within 48 hours. This renders months-long programming cycles completely archaic. The case for adoption appears absolute. However, it is precisely this efficiency that introduces a new class of strategic contradictions. We must now turn our analysis to the paradox of this physical lock-in, and what is the high cost of such existential efficiency? The strategic paradox is one of physical lock-in. You see, once a corporation integrates this operating system into its physical workflow, the switching costs are no longer financial, they are existential. The corporation effectively becomes a vassal, its physical operations entirely dependent on a single external entity for all software updates and for maintenance. At Giga Texas, we are already observing the phenomenon of recursive manufacturing. This is a process where robots build the next generation of their own components. This initiates a collapse in the marginal cost of production. Traditional Keynesian labor models, which are predicated on human wages and consumption driving economic activity, are simply not equipped to measure an economy where capital recursively builds itself and the cost of labor approaches the cost of electricity. This lock-in redefines corporate dependency, but the implications scale far beyond the balance sheet of a single enterprise. We must now broaden this risk analysis from the corporate to the sovereign level to identify the geopolitical choke points and the new map of national vulnerability this creates. Having established the dependencies at the corporate level, it is now imperative that we identify the primary master key vulnerabilities in this emerging structure of global power. Where are the true choke points? The most significant physical vulnerability is the rare earth Achilles heel. To be specific, the production of millions of Optimus units, specifically their high-torque actuators, would consume somewhere between 15 to 20% of the global rare earth supply. The geopolitical consequence is unavoidable. It creates a profound strategic dependency on the mineral processing capabilities of a primary geopolitical rival. The threat matrix that emerges is entirely novel. Centralized fleet updates through a system like Starlink create a single point of failure. A successful cyber attack is no longer a data leak, it is a coordinated kinetic event. The system displaces not just manual labor, but the entire human supervisory class. And perhaps most importantly, the concept of labor liquidity, the ability to redeploy thousands of labor units across continents via software command, grants its controller an unprecedented power to alter the global balance of labor at a moment's notice. Finally, we must synthesize this entire analysis into a forward-looking strategic reality. We must present the new hierarchy of global power as it will likely exist by 2036. This technology effectively neutralizes the demographic dividend. For decades, the geopolitical advantage of a large, young populace. When the cost of labor becomes a global constant, the only remaining logistical metric is proximity to the consumer. This will trigger what can only be called a Monroe Doctrine of manufacturing, a massive reshoring to nations that control the labor operating system. The future global hierarchy, therefore, will be binary. The hegemons will be those nations that own the compute and the physical labor OS. They will achieve full-stack sovereignty, and they will control what could be called demographics as a service. The vassals will be those nations reduced to providing the raw minerals for the system, their economies and their labor policies subject to external control. We must therefore reframe this entity entirely. It is not an automaker. It is a new category of power. A physical computation hegemon that is merging the digital layer of intelligence with the physical layer of action. Therefore, the critical strategic question facing every entity represented in this room is no longer if this transition will occur. The question is which sovereign powers will architect its deployment and which will become subject to its architecture. This is not an investment thesis to be debated. It is a sovereign survival strategy to be enacted.